Welcome back to our podcast, Duck for Life. Hi, my name is Sydney.
My name is Chloe.
My name is Winston.
And my name is Cindy.
Has anyone ever heard of global warming?
Oh yeah, isn't global warming changing the climate?
Yeah, that thing is caused by greenhouse gases.
Oh, what are greenhouse gases?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so part of greenhouse gases is CO2 and methane. These can change the climate. That is the cause of global warming. This will affect the yield of crops and the fertility of soil. Yields is the amount of crops harvested per area of land, by the way. The increased temperatures from global warming can actually cause damage to crops, reduce soil quality, and cause heat stress in crops. The ultimate effect of rising heat depends on each crop's optimal range of temperatures, but if the temperatures exceed this range, yields will drop. This is because heat stress can disrupt a plant's pollination, flowering, root development, and the growth stages. However, the increased CO2 could positively affect yield amounts, which is kind of good, but might not be too good. Global warming can cause extreme weather and natural disasters, which can destroy farms, which in turn can cause famine. So I don't think really the increased CO2 doesn't really matter because what are you going to do when you have no food?
Hey, doesn't that connect to climate and weather too?
Oh yeah, it does. Rising temperatures can cause both an increase and decrease in yields. Things such as higher temperatures, extreme weather, drought, increasing levels of carbon dioxide, and rising sea levels also decrease the quantity and quality of our food.
Wait, so that means no more ice cream?
Winston, that's not the point.
Anyways, I'm gonna continue. So, increase in temperatures may lengthen the growing seasons, which could be a positive. However, changed precipitation could lead to water scarcity during peak growing months, which means no one's going to get their food. And like Winston said, no more ice cream. These changes will disrupt the timeline of water availability and growing patterns for many crops.
Oh, really? I think I heard about this happening in Africa too.
Yes, temperatures are rising faster in Africa than any other region, which will cause famine and food insecurity throughout the whole continent. Desertification, or when land becomes desert-like, can occur, which causes less crops to grow because the land is not fertile, and also livestock are more susceptible to diseases.
And I found this graph that actually explains a lot of that. Part A of this graph actually shows the impacts of historical changes in climate. From 1960 to 2013, yields for 4 major crops grown in different regions across the globe are shown in this graph. The numbers in brackets are the number of studies for each category and represents basically all their research. You will see the percentage of yield projections, which basically means how many of these projections that have been conducted result in the decreases or increases in yield. If you look at 2090 through 2109, you will see that 60% of projections actually include a 10% to 25% decrease in yield, which means that it's just there's no hope. There's no hope basically. So if we don't change something, we might not have food in the future.
We're running out of food?
Yeah, basically, you know where food shortages are going to happen the most? They're going to happen the most in developing countries where droughts are occurring because that country is not able to provide adequate food for their people. This is because the nutritional value of most food is reduced because of the rising levels of carbon dioxide.
Oh, that's interesting.
I also have a graph that correlates to this. So the x-axis is the years and the y-axis is the yields. So overall, yields have been increasing from the beginning to the end of this graph. However, global warming has caused some dips in the graph. For example, you can see unusual climate events have happened twice.
Damages to crops on a large scale can result in millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, which of course can cause food shortages. The amount of money spent on land just to maintain the crops is so much, so when you lose that much money, you also lose that much food. Over the years, as temperatures have been rising, so have crop insurance payments. This indicates that as the temperatures have been rising, so have damages to crops, which they need to pay through insurance. To showcase the relationship between profits and yields, I have this graph here. At the lowest point in 1982, yields were at about 80%, while profits were at about 90%. At the highest point in 1990, yields were at about 130%, and profits were 140%. This shows the relationship between the amount of yields and the amount of profits. Now, the importance of agriculture is huge. It represents 8.3% of total sales and 7.5% of all jobs in the Northwest. It's accounted for nearly 7 billion in sales in 2021. If yield amounts decreased, it could create ripple effects throughout all the economy and very well cause food shortages and famine. Moreover, global warming can cause extreme weather, which is the most prominent cause of crop loss. The 2015 drought, for example, led to damages that cost farmers in Washington an estimated $633 to $733 million.
I heard that humans have a heavy impact on agriculture as well. This is due to the fact that the beef demand all around the world is increasing every day. For example, in the United States, it's said that better breeding, genetics, and nutrition have increased the efficiency of livestock production. It is also really crazy to think about that in the 1970s, 140 million head of cattle were needed to meet the demand, and now only 90 million head of cattle are required. But I don't think it makes a difference because those 90 million head of cattle are only producing more meat. You may be wondering, why are cows such a heavy impact factor too? This is because the gas of cows, otherwise known as burps and farts, generate about 15% of greenhouse gases global per year. This is when the digestion and waste from cows produce methane, which is 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere. Luckily, companies such as DSMN.AS and Kiwi milk producer Fonterra are looking into this problem. These two companies made additives that allow cows to burp less.
Farmers have begun to practice this method known as dry farming. Crop yields might not be as high as irrigated crops, but this method can keep some crops growing year-round. Cover crops can reduce soil erosion, increase soil organic matter, and in some cases, increase farm profits. In addition, when intercropped, which is when it mixes into an area with another crop, it barely can improve the quality and productivity of crops and soil. Did you know that no-till farming can also improve soil health? In no-till farming, farmers do not till their fields before planting. Instead, they use specialized equipment to create a channel that is just spacious enough for seeds to be planted, minimizing soil disturbance. One strategy to adapt to rising temperatures in the Northwest is the incorporation of high tunnels to create controlled climates for vegetables and specialty crops. Profits can be increased threefold compared to the same vegetables grown in open fields. However, seasonal high tunnels are not ideal for all vegetables.
Thanks, y'all. And here's our sources.